India's economy will contract by a huge 10.3% this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. That's the forecast from the International Monetary Fund. The biggest slump of any major emerging nation, as well as the worst Indian performance since independence. Even before the pandemic, the report had said India was struggling to gain traction, and the hit to global activity from the virus, as well as one of the strictest lockdowns in the world, has combined to deal the Indian economy a severe blow. And this also represents a sharp downward revision from the IMF's previous prediction in June, when it said output would shrink 4.5%. Now, India, Spain and Italy are the countries that the IMF says will undergo double-digit economic decline this year. But India's projected slump is the largest of any major economy, the biggest among main emerging markets as well. Well, to talk us through this and to get some reactions from economists here, we're joined by Madan Sabnavis, Chief Economist of CARE Ratings. We also have with us Abhishek Ram, economist and member of ICAI, who's an author as well. Madan Sabnavis, you know, the fact that the IMF is painting such a gloomy picture of the Indian economy, a contraction of 10.3%, we're talking about the worst performance since independence and also the biggest contraction of any emerging economy. Your thoughts and the fact that this is a downward revision of what the IMF itself had said in June?
Well, in fact, I think most of the economists who have made projections have been doing a downward revision, because I think there was always a caveat attached that there would be a downward bias, especially because of the severe lockdown process which we had and a very gradual way in which we have gone in for unlock. I think that's the basic crux to it, that we have had an unlock. It's come with a number of localized lockdowns accompanying them. So we've never really had a very free economy for until now. So I think that's one of the reasons as to why there has been this sharp decline in terms of the forecast. In fact, quite interestingly, I think the Reserve Bank of India had given its first time its estimate of minus 9.5% on Friday. And we felt that the RBI was being a bit too bearish on India's growth, because we at CARE Ratings that actually put an estimate of around minus 8.2% with a downward bias. But now that we're looking at the IMF, I think what is really significant is that compared to the other countries, as you have mentioned, I think India is probably one of the worst performers. And I think it all goes down to the way in which we have not been able to manage this lock and unlock process. And even today, we're grappling with it with a number of sectors still under the lockdown. And I think what we're really going to see is a very dismissive performance even in Q2 and Q3. But I think the positive thing, which probably the IMF does not track, is that we are seeing that there is an improvement in terms of the negativity in terms of month-on-month basis. And therefore, in the second quarter, while we are expecting a negative growth rate, it will definitely not be anywhere close to the minus 24% we saw. It's more likely to be closer towards minus 10%. And then there would be an improvement in Q3 and maybe a marginal positive growth in Q4. So I think if you look at it that way, there's of course a lot of hope, because I think the government has opened up in a very calibrated manner, given the fact that we have been one of the most affected countries in terms of the spread of the virus.
Abhishek Ram, you know, even if we look outside of India, you know, the kind of comments we're hearing in this report, the fact that the coronavirus crisis will wreak lasting damage on people's living standards across the world, says this report. Taxes on the rich and on companies may have to rise to address this economic harm, is what the IMF says, when it talks about how the damage will persist, because the adjustment from struggling sectors like travel and tourism will also extend and expand into other sectors of the economy. This is a very gloomy picture overall. And, you know, the IMF is also pegging the global decline at 4.4%.
For me, a decline in double digit in Indian scenario is not a shocking, because RBI own estimates said the last week weekend they said 9.5 contradiction. They regarding decline in growth in healthcare, in the hospitality sector and tourism sector, that would impact many other sectors also. And for example, if I will place an example, so if IT company has asked their employees to work from home, then they would have left their offices, they would have reduced the size of their offices. Now on that offices, there would be no rental and those would be the landlord would be paying
Right.
a EMI. There is a risk of bank NPAs increasing in real estate sector also. So this all, and there are chances where people have lost their job, their salaries have been reduced, there are salary cuts, there are pink slips. So then credit card defaults, NPAs could rise a lot, and these have multifold effects.
Right.
So just because saying that, just by saying that Indian economy, the contradiction of Q1 is over, no.
Okay.
As per reasonable estimate, we will see double-digit negative impact, negative growth, and if we don't perform in the second or in the third or fourth quarter, then this could lead to permanent recession, or it could lead to depression also.
All right, we'll leave it at that for now. Madan Sabnavis and Abhishek Ram, thank you for joining us with all of those details.